You've just enjoyed about half an hour of really classy and cerebral Walrus talk, so I just want to warn you that I'm about to take it into the gutter. So if you would like to leave for my 7 minutes, I totally understand, and I'd like to apologize in advance. My name is Lainey Louie. I really struggled with how I was going to contribute to a conversation tonight about creativity because these people here are obvious creators. I'm a gossip blogger, a talk show host, and an entertainment reporter. So I talk shit about celebrities all day, every day, and I get paid for it. I think I talk shit about celebrities in a really creative way, but no one thinks of me as someone who actually creates anything. So part of my insecurity about being included among these creators here is that I'm firmly planted on the low culture side of the discussion, while they very clearly, as you've heard so far, represent high culture. They're the pride of the panel. You'd rescue them first and you'd leave me on the back of the boat and let me drown. And I feel like that's the place that low culture represents. Low culture by its very name is down here, the scab of society, and high culture is the art. You've no problem citing lines from Shakespeare, that's high culture, but you kind of smirk sheepishly when you reveal that you know all the names of Taylor Swift's ex-boyfriends. That's low culture. But I think we can all agree that all art is storytelling. And low culture is storytelling too. Gossip is storytelling. And I'll take it one step further. Low culture can exist without high culture, but can high culture exist without low culture? Or does low culture drive high culture? If high culture is the summit of creativity, is low culture the birthplace of creativity? If there was, you can still leave. I was on my way here, back here, I went to school here, and I had this daydream, and I knew I was gonna meet all these deans and academics, and I was like, man, maybe I can tell them my daydream, that one day Western University would have a school of gossip. And at the school of gossip, this would be the academic endeavor, to validate gossip not just as the spark of high culture, but as its actual origin. But what is the origin of gossip itself? Last month, the BBC investigated how gossip came to be, reporting that right now there are researchers all around universities in the UK, and they're working on this hypothesis that gossip evolved out of grooming. So grooming was how our ancestors forged social bonds, but grooming can't be scaled. Like, you can only groom one or two people at a time, so as our brains got bigger, we developed verbal communication, and as those skills became more sophisticated, gossip was born. So I just want to make sure you didn't miss that point. For those of you who think that gossip is for idiots, it came into existence as we got more intelligent. According to philosopher Julian Baggini, gossip is, quote, a moral appraisal of other people about the judgment of what people are doing and whether it's right or wrong, good or bad. So back then, when our brains first started growing, they morally appraised each other and gossiped about each other as skills for survival. For example, who do you think is a better stick gatherer, Joe or John? Well, Joe's kind of slow, and it takes him a long time to figure things out, so if we put Joe in charge, we'll probably freeze to death, so let's send John instead. The modern equivalent of that, though, is that the Daily Mail in London is reporting that Queen Elizabeth has grounded her son, Prince Andrew, and is sending her grandson, Prince Harry, to represent her overseas because Andrew allegedly slept with a hooker. So gossip kept Neanderthals warm, high culture, and gossip is saving the royal family, low culture. Still, gossip continues to have a bad reputation even though prestigious institutions are defending it. In 2014, Stanford University published a study that found that gossip can improve society by identifying bullies, ostracizing their behavior, and then inviting the offenders back by showing them how to reform, which in turn promotes cooperation. So basically, all the bitching and gossiping we've engaged in about what a little punk Justin Bieber has been over the last 2 years has actually served to illuminate the dark side of child entitlement and child stardom. We've been doing him a favor. And look, He's on a tour of contrition now. He's on Ellen DeGeneres' show every week to apologize for what an asshole he's been. And instead of pissing in restaurants and egging people's houses, he's now going bowling with senior citizens and taking his shirt off all the time. Gossip did that. You're welcome. But to bring it back to creativity, in addition to its benefit to society, how is gossip contributing to the arts? How is low culture informing high culture? Thematically, low culture has been inspiring high culture literally for thousands of years. Tabloids in Egyptian times took the form of hieroglyphics. Servants used to etch symbols into the walls to tell each other who was fucking who in the royal court. Apparently, there was a queen depicted in a series of really flexible body positions with one of her ministers, and a king who used to make late-night visits to one of his advisors in the middle of the night. Back then, they called it gossip. Now, we've rebranded that history and archaeology. The low culture becomes high culture. It's cultural alchemy. And there's evidence of this in literature too, turning the base into precious. After all, what are the recurring themes of gossip? Love, hate, discovery, jealousy, obsession, betrayal, mean girling. Taylor Swift and Katy Perry first started hating each other over John Mayer and then later over a few backup dancers. Like Hippolyta and Titania love triangling each other over Oberon and Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, which I read here when I didn't skip English Lit. So, love, hate, discovery, jealousy, obsession, betrayal, mean girling, that's pretty much the subtitle to Macbeth. Shakespeare wrote soap operas. He wrote for an audience that understood the soap opera. He wrote for an audience that, for the most part, couldn't read, but they didn't have to read to appreciate the fundamental blocks of storytelling. They didn't need to be elite to recognize the gossip in his art, to understand that gossip inspired his art, to know that without gossip, there would be no art. Because without Beyonce, you'd never be able to say that, I woke up like this. You wouldn't appreciate the awesome power of a wind machine, which Walrus wouldn't supply to me tonight. You wouldn't feel so guilty about spending so much time wondering what happened in that elevator. And for those of you who are too good to know about that, Beyonce and her husband, Jay-Z, were in an elevator with her sister Solange, and then a hidden video camera came out of Solange beating the shit out of Jay-Z, and the gossip world exploded. I'm telling you, you don't have to feel guilty about caring about that. Not when Harvard Business School has published a legit case study on the business of being Beyonce. If Harvard cares about what happened in that elevator, it's okay for you to care about what happened in that elevator, which, and I know this isn't what you want to hear, but I hear it had more to do with Solange's needs than whatever was going on with the Carters. Rumor has it, Solange is allegedly hard up for cash, and Beyonce and Jay-Z shop for real estate in the neighborhood of $70 million. So it's textbook sibling rivalry, like Kate and Bianca in The Taming of the Shrew, Cal and Aaron Trask in East of Eden, Michael and Fredo Corleone in The Godfather. All of which we could discuss more elaborately if this institution of higher learning could just form a school of gossip. If you build it, deans, provosts, all the other really smart people who are here, I promise you I will be the first to enroll. Thank you.